The three big rides that folks know here, East Maui Loop, West Maui Loop, Haleakala Climb, I'd done all those independently of one another. And I knew of folks who had done what's known as the figure eight, which is West Maui and East Maui together on the same go. But I didn't know of anyone who had done all three in one go. I have since learned that that has been done by a couple of individuals. I don't know in what order and over what period of time, but I know it was in one single effort. But I wanted to give that a shot this winter. And then after meeting the folks at Imua Family Services through Pedal Imua, which is their annual fundraiser for the Dream Imua program, which ultimately all the money from my ride went toward, which is a wish granting program for kids on Maui facing crisis of some sort. Familial crisis, inner family dynamics, or if it's a health issue or kind of anything in that realm. Kids are referred to Dream Imua, and then they do what they can to try and support that kid's dream to make that thing come true. Honestly, it intimidated me a little bit to reach out because I've never done anything like this before. I love the energy and the passion that they had, and if I was to do this for any sort of cause, I wanted it to be for what they're doing. In terms of preparation, that started with the route itself and thinking through in what order did I want to take on these three big routes in a way that on a typical Maui weather day, where would I run into the least amount of challenge, mostly from a wind perspective. As I then brought the fundraising piece and element into this, it became more community focused for me, and it was how could I plan a route that allows me to be in places at times of day that make sense for others to come out to be a part of this and doesn't have me like way off on the backside of Hana, and thinking through a lot of different route options and the challenge level of each individual aspect, East Maui, West Maui, and the climb. I kept coming back to the climb is gonna suck no matter when I do it, but wouldn't it be cool to finish at the top? And I was like, oh, that would be this, it was gonna crush me to get up there, but it would be so unbelievable to finish at the top. And then it became, so how do I link West Maui and East Maui in a way to then get to the top? And then one day, as I was clicking through route stuff, it just dawned on me. Starting in La Perouse at 1 a.m., crystal clear, no wind. The stars were phenomenal, dead quiet. Started zooming out westbound from there. Had my sister Kerrigan and her boyfriend Jacob driving behind me. First hour was beautiful, quiet, still. End of Kihei, making my way onto North Kihei Road. There's a good crosswind. A really good crosswind, and that was at 2:15 a.m. because I could feel myself getting blown over, which are some of the strongest gusts of winds that I've experienced on this island, which also made me a little bit nervous because it was like, if it's this gusty at 2:30 in the morning, what's the rest of this day gonna look like? Very fun to ride through front tree of Lahaina, middle of the night. That was 3 a.m. or so. Yeah, it was kind of sweet. Yeah, not many have done that, I don't think. Continued on, rounded the corner, and by the corner I mean the westernmost point, into the beautiful north part of the West Maui Loop. Very cool to be back there. Didn't see a single car the entire way, and that's when the adventure really starts, because you feel like you're totally out there. And just due to the terrain, you're bobbing and weaving through these valleys and canyons along these cliff sides and stuff. And I rode 10 miles or so entirely by myself, and it was really only 10 miles that I was entirely alone the entire day. And at that point, I hit my first aid stop at Baldwin Beach, 5:45 a.m., which was, I think I rolled in at 5:42, and I had predicted 5:45, so I was like, we're off to a great start here in terms of timing. And had eaten all the things that I had told myself I was going to eat. I was still feeling very good at that point, early on, but even just to have others there who were super fired up to see me, motivation kicks back up another notch right there, and the energy is that flame gets rekindled a little bit. I did deviate off route for a second in Paia, and as I zoomed along, then I met Josh Gallardo, who is a guy who flew over from Oahu the night previous. For this ride. Met up with him in Haiku, and then he and I rode together for the next 100 miles. Back to the element of like having people around, just to take my mind off of my own legs for a little bit. And also, and beyond that, to share the experience with somebody, you know, to have somebody there to, when you're oogling at the sunbeams coming from the sunrise, like through the misty rainforest and cliffs of that road of Hana, and there's no cars because it's 6:30, 6:45 in the morning on Sunday, to look around and like be in awe of it, and then have someone there who's like totally understand exactly what's going on and gets it. That was really fun. Yeah, so he and I zoomed around for a long time together. Checkpoint 2 was in just outside of Hana at Coconut Glen. Raynell from Imua Family Services, she is the point person for Dream Imua. That is her program. She was there to say hello to us. She had a couple of coconut water that we took down, which was awesome. We hung out there for a little bit. It rained for a total of maybe a minute as we made our way around Hana. Yeah, which was huge. And it came exactly on the heels of me turning to Josh and saying, if it never rains, we'll have the best day. Like, we're gonna be, you won't believe how lucky we are. And truly, within 15 seconds, it was raining on us. And it was like, yeah, all right. What also worked in our favor was, as I kind of had thought might be the case, again, on a typical Maui weather day, is a ripping tailwind in that direction. The tailwind was unbelievable. Coming out of Kaupo is brutal. That is punchy, short uphill to very steep downhill to a flat to like a sweeping down corner to then like straight uphill again. And so you inherently have to burn a lot of energy to get up those things. Also, as I thought ahead to this ride, that stretch is also the most exposed in terms of sun. There is no shade at all. And having been out there a few times, it can get real toasty. And that can be draining. Aside from just pedaling, it's like the sun drains, it just saps you of energy. And you start to force your body to do things that it really doesn't want to be doing anymore at that point. And I could feel having the two other guys riding with me. And in addition to that, my buddy Johnny and his friend Holden were out on motorcycles zooming all around us, which was fun. Holden took a lot of the video. Really fun to have those guys there because it took my mind off of some of the pain that I was starting to feel. Because I was distracted from my own needs a little bit as well. I still need to be eating every 20-30 minutes and drinking a lot. And I fell off that bandwagon a little bit. As you watch the mileage get closer to that final number that you know you're looking to hit, I start to feel like I get the sense of I'm almost there. I don't need to pay as much attention to the fueling stuff because I'm almost there. But in this instance, almost there in mileage does not mean almost there in reality. Because I'm at mile 160, you only have 30 miles left, but they're straight uphill. Yeah. And it's about 8,000 vertical feet up at that point. So yeah, that was a mistake that I made. Thinking back on it, and I wish I had been more diligent about the fueling aspect of it at that point, and I paid the price for it in the last few miles. But that's how it goes, you know? And what I would not change is any of those people being out there. It's a solo ride, but it's a team effort, you know? There are so many more people involved in this than it might look from the outside. And that is particularly true of this ride, bringing Imua Family Services into it. But on any big ride like this, you can't do this kind of stuff without support from your friends and your family and people who care about you. And I feel so lucky to have people in my corner to help facilitate these kind of things. And I like to think that they get as big a kick out of it as I do, you know? I love doing it, and having done it a few times and seeing people out there, it always, at least from my perspective, seems like they're all having a heck of a good time too. And so it's fun and exciting for me to try and bring more people into that experience, you know, because it's something totally beyond the scope of what most people think is possible. Yeah, something that I love to try and continue to do. Yeah, it's a reflection of that. I am frequently asked, do you feel the lack of oxygen up at that elevation? And for me, it's very hard to distinguish between the challenge being, the ride becoming more challenging as a result of a lack of oxygen, or is it because you just climbed 25, 30 miles to get up there, you know? Like, you're tired, you're tired. It doesn't really matter why. And there's a lot of it that I don't really remember. Like going through all of the ranch land and even like beyond the park entrance in those last 13 miles, there's big chunks of that where it's just like, I was just looking down and following. At that point, it was Pete and another guy named Jake who was with me, just following that wheel. And that was the only thing that I could focus on. It was the only thing I wanted to focus on. Especially like the ranch land area, which is not a small chunk. That's at least 2,000 vertical feet. In the planning process of this, I did a lot of encouraging and spreading the word of like, if you can get to the summit, like to be there for the finish, that'd be awesome. If you want to ride up there with me, that would be extra awesome. I hadn't thought about the fact that to get to the summit, you have to pass me. Yeah, it got to a point where it felt like every single car was going by and it was someone that I knew or like who knew what was going on. And at that point, it was just me and my new friend Jake, who I just met at the bottom of Crater Road, who came out to ride to the summit with me. Yeah, that was something that I'll never ever forget. And then in particular, there was the last half mile of the climb to the observation area is the steepest part of the entire climb. That stretch I was really least looking forward to over the course of the entire day, because I just knew it was just gonna be terrible. And at that point, it's cold, it's windy, it's misty, everything is pretty wet. I've got all my layers on, I can't really feel my fingers and toes. And I look over and I recognize my buddy Luke's truck from Luke's, who I work with at the shop. And it was the whole shop crew who had come out and were just going ballistic out the window. And yeah, I mean, I had nothing left. But it was that like kick that was like, you can do this, you can finish this thing, and you're gonna finish it strong. You're not just gonna tootle into the summit. Whatever you got left, you're gonna hammer it up this last little stretch, because everyone's up there. Yeah, I'm not putting a foot down. I'm gonna make it. In any mental struggle like that, there's a lot of like, oh, I could just, put a foot down, take a breather here. I could just stop. Yeah, so short and sweet, but yeah, an all-timer of a little celebration up there. Yeah, very special.
I want to thank each and every one of you for donating to this ride project for Imua Family Services. Thrilled to say we've already made our goal of $2,500. Ben Granis has flown all the way out here from Ridgefield, Connecticut to say hello and ride some bikes. Just broke $4,000 in donations ahead of Sunday, which is unbelievable. Thank you all so very much.
Believed in speed, baby! 5K! 2 days! Hip hip hooray!
I believe that people loved what you did. And I wonder if we could take the $5,000 that you raised, and I wonder if we could double that money. Would anybody else like to give $5,000? Look at that right there. You see that? That's 100. That's 331, and we have 281 right there. So now, oh, look at this. We have 490. Hold it up. You have just quadrupled what you set out to do. That's 5 bids for $5,000. Do we have anybody else in the room? $5,000. That's 6. How many else wants to give $5,000? You have done something amazing. You gave of yourself, your blood, sweat, and tears. It was the hard, grueling ride, and I wanted you to see how people support not only this organization, but people who give of themselves. Thank you so much.